while I share this with you, but I don't think I can. So forgive me if I just read from my papers. Chris is an uncle. My brother Matthew and I are the oldest of a list that includes Amanda, Brendan, Morgan, Reed, and Trent, Daniel, and Stephanie. I'm sure my cousins would give me the liberty of saying Chris was such a fun and irreverent, engaged, and loving uncle. Today is about celebrating Chris and his journey through life. He lived 69 years, many of which Chris and I were not in each other's orbit. He was busy doing lots of things. My special bond with Chris really started to form as a teenager. Over the last few years, I learned so much more about Chris through the people that he loved and that loved him. So many different kinds of relationships in love. So many special bonds. Chris meant so many things to so many people. I can't speak to the other kinds of love, but I can share about the love between an uncle and a niece. In witnessing Chris and his relationships, the through line is a type of unconditional love. Chris had a gift among many of having you feel seen, heard, and validated. For sitting with you in whatever you might be going through. I didn't think I would, I thought I could read this. Listening, never judging, never trying to change you or it, just bearing witness. I truly experienced this gift at the age of 23 when my brother Matthew tragically passed away. I don't remember the details during that first pivotal week after his death, when I would have otherwise been alone in my mother's house. But Chris came to stay with me. In my faulty memory, he was there for weeks, but it was probably more like a week. He would sit with me on my mother's porch day after day, just listening to me, my grief, my tears, my questions about why. It was also during this time that I first heard the name Freddie McLaughlin. I don't know where you are, Freddie. Sorry to mention you, but I have to. Chris's dear friend, who also played a pivotal role during such a fragile time. I'm meeting Freddie today in person for the first time. Chris reached out to Freddie to ask him a favor on behalf of me, a favor that Freddie graciously granted, and that forever will be one of the most special things any two humans have ever done for me. I'll spare you the intimate details of this favor, but know that Chris and Freddie being friends is no accident. They are cut from the same cloth, loving, empathetic, and generous in spirit. It was after this loss that my relationship shifted with Chris. A new bond had been forged. We became close in the way you do after sharing something so intimate. I saw him as a protector and a friend who I could talk about anything with. My conversations with Chris were very rarely top line. We always somehow went deeper, talking about relationships and life. My fondest memories of Chris are of these moments. Over the past year or so, I had the privilege of offering Chris the same gift he offered me so many years ago. The gift of bearing witness to his journey through multiple myeloma, sharing in the grief of a diagnosis no one would choose, and the physical and emotional trauma he so bravely endured for so long. After his diagnosis, we spoke often. One conversation stands out so poignantly for me. It was probably the only conversation I ever had with Chris that got somewhat heated. Chris was asking me to let go of something he thought I was holding on to emotionally. I was trying to explain to him that both can be true, pain and acceptance. We went back and forth for too long and finally agreed to table the discussion. I think about that conversation often. I make a living talking with people about letting things go, acceptance, it is what it is. My journey with Chris through the last few months had me relating to letting go differently. So much to let go of in life, for him and all of us. And Chris held on so dearly to this life, the loves in his life, all that he loved about living. One of my favorite poets, the belated Mary Oliver, wrote about the things Chris and I both cherish: nature, love, life, relationships, and she also wrote about death. I won't read the entire poem, but in her poem, Blackwater Woods, Oliver writes, "Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this: the fires in the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go." Chris, you have let go of this realm, moving on to the next, but while here, you did all three things Oliver mentions with such heart and such courage. You loved all that was mortal so dearly. You held it against your bones as if your life depended on it. And in the end, you let go. I too am letting you go from this world, but in so many ways, I and everyone who loves you will continue to hold you, your evolving love, the ever-changing relationship against our bones forever, as if our lives depend on it.